All right. Well, Kaleigh, thank you so much for joining me on this little video session to talk about writing better content, writing better advertising, and things like that. If you would take a second to introduce yourself and what you do, I think that'd be a good place to start.
Sure. So I have been freelance writing full time for the past about 6 years. We were just talking about that. I just had my 6 year anniversary.
Awesome.
And my specialty is long form blog content for e-commerce platforms and then the software as a service that integrates with them. So think like email marketing, cart abandonment, all of those wonderful plugins that store owners use to make their stores do more, sell more, all those good things. So I help them write content, which is usually like educational or how-tos
Mhm.
or the psychographics behind why people buy, all of those interesting things. And I could talk about that for hours, but I'm going to stop there.
Well, that's kind of we can definitely get into that. One thing we want to get into. I think one of the reasons that I wanted to do an interview with you for as a non-Facebook advertiser for Facebook advertisers is to talk about one, the trends that you see. I feel and I know that you have a really good sense of this from being in this industry and watching and being and writing content also that convinces us as e-commerce, kind of lever pullers to some
Mhm.
degree, but also looking at the industry overall and what you're seeing in terms of e-commerce D2C trends. Um, so let's start there. What do you, as you look across, where people are at now in terms of D2C companies, in terms of growth, in terms of the way that they're going about how they're marketing. What are the things that you see that have shifted this year in 2019?
Yeah, this has been a really interesting year. And I've done a lot of reporting on this for places like Forbes and Adweek and a little bit for Glossy as well. A couple things that I'm seeing a lot of in this past 12-month span. Number one is pop-up shops. So physical retail, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of these direct-to-consumer retailers are experimenting with physical retail spaces, either in a chain retailer store like a Nordstrom or a larger department store where they have a pop-up within, or they have a standalone, whether that's a short term, like Glossier has done several of those across the US. They also have several long term locations now. I believe it's New York, LA, and now London, maybe Austin as well. I'm not 100%. But I'm seeing more of these brands do that. And I know Glossier, again, just announced yesterday that they are doing a perfume pop up with Nordstrom. So, again, a lot of this recurring theme of getting in front of more customers by expanding beyond just purely direct to consumer web-based interaction and getting in physical stores,
Mm-hmm.
which is especially smart during the holiday shopping season when people are out and actively buying and really in the mood to find new things and buy interesting gifts. So I think that that's a smart move. The other thing I'm seeing a lot of personalization. So when I say that, I don't just mean like personalized messaging or email marketing. I mean like really highly customized products, whether that's through something like monogram offerings on apparel products or like Pros Hair Care, for example, which lets you develop a custom made solution for your shampoo. These products that are just really individualized and make them stand out from the market because it's for the individual rather than a mass market product, which makes it feel extra special. That's hard to do for a lot of direct to consumer companies, especially small ones, because they're still small and they're growing and they don't maybe have the resources to invest in those things just yet. But I think even doing something as small as like sending handwritten notes that are personalized. I know that Candace Pool Neistat of Billy, she has her apparel and home goods line. That's something that she does and has found it to be really effective. So those are the big two that are right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think, the pop-ups thing, I completely agree with you. I think everyone's looking for, to me, that's a reaction of everything. Everyone's looking for incremental. They're looking for somewhere else to go. And that's a good place to go. If it's the right partnership, I think it can make a lot of sense. A lot of times I feel like it's not necessarily aimed from a profit standpoint, but just from like another place for people. It's like a display ad, but in real life,
Right.
basically.
It's brand awareness. Right.
Yeah. And the personalization thing is interesting. I think the handwritten notes, people have done that for a while. I like that. But I think that the thing that to me the personalization goes from is everyone wants to feel special, like it feels luxury if it's attached in that way. Like having your name on it, whether it's monogrammed or I don't know. I mean, Uber is a great example of that. Obviously, like it makes you feel like you're special in that regard, which is interesting. But I think, but very true. I mean, I think what we're seeing is ads are becoming obviously they're very competitive. They're becoming more competitive every day. They're becoming specifically to Facebook and Instagram. You're running out of places to put them, basically, and the ads really have to stand out. And I think as Facebook advertisers, we focus a lot on the content, meaning the video, the photo that goes with it. We don't necessarily focus on the text as much. So let's dive into that a little bit from a writer's perspective. When you think about not only the copy that's part of the ad itself, I mean, you could talk about the whole ad as well, but from beginning to end and then going to the site, where do you see a lot of D2C companies missing the mark here as we write ads or as we write landing pages? Where is the disconnect? Because we as advertisers are tasked with finding better ROAS, but I feel like a lot of it has to do with the disconnect between those two things. And sometimes we can't make it work because it's just not compelling.
Yeah.
So how do we step that up?
I think that there's a lot of data that's available that can really help Facebook marketers craft highly personalized, again, speaking to that theme of personalization, highly individualized messages for specific subcategories of their target demographic. So I think it's important to study those over time as well. So a great example of this is Spearmint Love, who has the children's apparel and clothing line of products. What they've done is they do a cohort analysis for their Facebook ads. So they watch their customers as they evolve over time, and they've learned to change their messaging and change their imagery, change the whole look and feel of their ads to evolve along with their customers throughout the customer life cycle. So new parents have a newborn baby, their needs at 6 months, 12 months, 18 months are dramatically different. And so if they're showing the same types of ads to those new parents over and over as their needs are dramatically changing, relevancy just drops off and people start to tune them out. So by doing the cohort analysis and seeing where those big jumps are, they're able to then tailor those messages and then break customers out into smaller groups and have really targeted messages that speaks to their needs at those different stages of the customer life cycle, which I think is really, really smart.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's something that some do, very few people do well. It's a challenge right now because from a technical standpoint, as Facebook advertisers, Facebook is talking a lot about consolidation of this is really nerdy, but like ad sets and ads and campaigns, and you want to have fewer basically. Mm-hmm. And what they've done, a different, fewer audiences. And what they've done is they've made the personalization side of it, the ability for you to test at the ad level more often. So you A/B test and you can put different lines of copy in and things like that. Which I don't know is like, that's nice, but I think that I would rather, and I'm a believer in what you're talking about, which is what I sort of hoped you would say. So it's awesome because you have doing a cohort analysis generally of like where your customers are at, it's going to be helpful for you. But I think the having the messaging speak to, hey, this is where they are, this is the type of customer they are, and this is the landing page they need to go to is like not common. Most people send people just to a bestsellers page, and they haven't really designed. I mean, you hear discussion of personas when you start to get into bigger brands, but if you go look at those particular bigger brands' ad accounts, you'll see a huge miss. And people are mostly just trying to mass market multiple concepts to everyone and then see which one sticks. It's not like small concepts to different groups and seeing where people are at. And often if you make that change, it can be really effective. When you're looking at like motivation in terms of the e-commerce industry for a consumer, what's your advice in terms of actually motivating the person to buy? Like, we always talk about an ad copy that there's three components. There's trust, there's previous customer experience, and there's quality as being the kind of the tenets of a good ad copy. What's your take on that? I mean, what else can they integrate in terms of thinking about to get across?
For me personally, the ads that I always notice on Facebook are the ones that have a very signature stylized personality to the writing voice. So they don't just use the standard all caps screaming a discount at you, you know, they say something that maybe is a little quirky or snarky or plays into pop culture, a reference of that sort. They do things that other brands aren't. And so that always jumps out to me. Maybe that's my writer brain and, you know, I'm programmed to notice those things, but I think it's hard to do and not every brand can do it. It doesn't make sense for everyone to have that kind of writing voice, but I think when I see it, it does work really well. And I love what you talked about with directing not to like a general product page, but to a really targeted landing page, selling maybe a specific product, maybe a bundle featuring that product that was advertised in the Facebook ad. Because again, you're then taking that relevancy and you can continue that unique writing voice as well onto the landing page. And so again, you're building out this really effective funnel that's going to be much better at converting rather than just like, here's an ad, it directs you to the product page, take a look, see if you find something. I feel like the approach of personality, very specific, direct to the landing page, like that's much more there's just less distraction, you know, it's easier for the person to complete the purchase and to follow through and check out.
Yeah, right. From when you go through in terms of your writing process, if somebody was said to you, hey, you know, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to improve our ad copy. We're trying to improve the journey, let's say. Is it starting for you with cohorts and starting then saying, what do these people look like? What are these personas? Let's design different pieces for them. Let's design different copy for them. And then taking that forward. How do you approach that writing process on your own? Because you're tasked later with the company saying like, here's what our buyers look like. Because there's like the reason I ask questions is because I've been tasked with this previously, and it's always like a billion different directions you could go.
Right. Yeah.
And ultimately, then the buyer ends up usually getting a Google Doc of here's the copy we're going to use, and you're like, this is great, but like what went into this?
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I'm asking sort of your process behind it.
Yeah. So for me, I'm somebody who spends a lot of time on the content creation side of things, more in the blog world. But the thing that I think is relevant there is one of the things we talk about a lot is what are the different pain points that the audience is facing, and then how can we address those specifically? So in the context of Facebook ads, I think it makes a lot of sense to look specifically at the different pain points and then develop ads around those and how they speak to different customer groups within the target audience, rather than just here's a lump of customers, they might like X type of product. I think it's more about like what problems can you solve for them? What needs can you address specifically? What's your unique value proposition for these types of customers that can help them overcome these obstacles? Things like that. I think that makes for a much more effective ad copy creation process.
Cool. And in terms of innovation, I want to ask you about this because I think you have a very good sense of it as well. We talked about pop-ups and personalization as seeing trends, you know, this year. What do you see in reference to innovation moving forward? You know, from D2C brands specifically, like what are they doing and what have you heard that they're doing, or what do you know they're testing that is innovative in terms of the ideas and the way that they're approaching it? The reason I ask that question is because one, I think, again, you have a very good read on this, but I think a lot of people are sitting here now and saying, Facebook became more competitive this year. I'm looking at other channels. I also am thinking about direct mail. Like there's a lot of people and I guess direct mail is sort of innovative to some degree. I mean, you can have ways it's innovative, but I'm curious what else you've seen and what else you've heard that you think is really innovative and interesting from a D2C perspective.
So the common theme I've heard all throughout 2019 is that community building is the next big thing. So yes, Facebook ads are becoming more expensive. Customer acquisition costs are through the roof for some people. So they're looking for ways to take things offline and build face-to-face in-person connections with their customers. So again, maybe that's through a pop-up, or maybe that's through hosting local events, or like in the case of Boosted Boards, for example, the electric skateboard company, they have an app and they encourage people to go out and take group rides. So really fostering that sense of community where it's not necessarily dependent on ad spend or clicks. It's all about becoming a hub for their target audience and making them a go-to location for whatever it is that their community cares about.
Cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for talking through some of these pieces. If people want to get a hold of you and are curious to learn more, what's a great way for them to do that?
Yeah, so my website is kaleighmoore.com. My first name is hard to spell, so I'm sure that'll be in text somewhere. And then I'm also on Twitter way more than I should be. My username there is @KaleighF. Again, first name super hard to spell, but it's out there, and those are both great places to get in touch.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks.